I call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the April 7, 2025 City of Kalispell Council meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Dahlman?
Here.
Counselor Fisher?
Here.
Counselor Hunter?
Here.
Counselor Nunley?
Here.
Counselor Carlson?
Here.
Counselor Gabriel?
Here.
Counselor Graham?
Here.
Counselor Dowd?
Here.
And Mayor Johnson.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Dowd, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have our agenda in front of us. Look to council for approval. Mr. Nunley,
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
second. Thank you, Ms. Carlson. All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We have two items on the consent agenda this evening. The first item are the council minutes from the March 17, 2025 meeting. And the second item is the PFAS Professional Services Agreement Amendment, response to emerging contaminant PFAS. This item considers amending the professional service agreement with PESHA to reflect an alternative water source construction for the Grandview and Armory water facilities. Any public comment on either of the two items on the consent agenda? Motion? Mr. Dowd?
Thank you, Your Honor. I move the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Second, thank you, Ms. Gabriel. All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We have no committee report this evening, so at this point in time, I'm open the meeting for public comment. Council will take comments from the public on items that are not on the agenda at this time. Please step forward, state your name, and give your comments at the microphone, please.
My name is Dale Bowles, B-O-L-Z, and good evening. This presentation is in reference to the email sent to all of you officials on April 1st, 2025, regarding situation that hundreds of residents are dealing with on First Avenue West, the extension where the parking lot is for the school when they have games. So I'm here in behalf of hundreds of residents who live across the street next to the parking lot at the end of 1700 First Avenue West, between First Avenue West and Airport Road. So I'm sure you know where that is. It's a big parking lot that was put in to aid in parking for Flathead and Glacier School events, sports events. We thought the parking lot would be a great improvement to the area. It used to be a field of weeds, and when it rained, cars and trucks would cut across it and cut unsightly cuts in the ground. However, Kalispell police currently call this location a hotspot because of the criminal activity there. We have gangs with friends that hold some of our residents hostage, leaving them with little or no way out of the situation. Hostages? Essentially, they are hostages. Residents cry out for help but receive frustration with no working, and I highlight working, answers to this dilemma. We're talking about 4 plexes, 6 plexes, 8 plexes that are right across the street from this, and a mobile home park, and also a large motel that's there too. Now picture this in your mind. You just put your baby or children down to sleep for the night. Your husband, your wife, or both of you need to get up early in the morning to go to work. All of a sudden, sometimes after 11 p.m., Your household is shocked awake by blaring horns, truck horns, racing engines, and tire shredding burnouts just outside your front door. Picture that. Jacked up, tall crew cab trucks and their friends and cronies line up across the street from you. They have high-powered headlights. They can point them right at these residences, and they leave them on. Can you imagine at 11 o'clock at night being woke up by intensive headlights coming through your bedroom windows? It's appalling. This can happen several times a night. You don't know when any of this is going to happen or how many times a night it will happen. But you do know it will happen. These shock-stricken residents could be your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters, your children. They could be your grandchildren. How can you, the city here, help them? Well, they've called the police many, many times, and the police work hard. They've even increased the patrols out there. That's good, we would say. We like that, but trying to combat the situation, their hands really are tied. Tied. Why tied? What do we mean by that? Interestingly, they have to catch the perpetrators in the act of doing it. Police have worked very hard. They've increased patrols going out there, but the problem is they have to see the actual incident and who did it in order to do anything about it. So picture in your mind's eye this situation. You're standing across from the parking lot with your back turned to the parking lot. Parking lot's back here. There are several vehicles in the parking lot. Someone does a loud burnout. You turn around and see what happened, but can you positively identify which car, truck it was and where, and are you willing to testify for it in court? If you're not willing to do that, nothing can be done. The police have to see that. You can say, I saw that car right there, but how are they going to catch him if they leave? It's a real dilemma. It makes it almost impossible to actually see who did it and then to prosecute them. You think, well, the police can do it. The police are doing all they can, but they're frustrated too. I've talked to many officers, including Patrol Captain Chad Fetvite. The roaring engines and squealing tires may only last a second or two or three or sometimes more, but now your family is awake. Babies crying, children are in distress, parents are mad, ticked off because nothing can be done other than what is being done now with the police. By the time police get there, there's little or no evidence of a crime. The perpetrators usually do this at night, and many trucks look just the same. A lot of them are jacked up, they got lights in the wheel wells, and to the average person, how would you identify that truck later so that something could be done? You can't do it. You have to know exactly what that vehicle is before you can identify it. They have police scanners and ways to communicate among themselves to minimize the possibility of getting arrested. They're not stupid. It's like a team or a gang. I call them a gang because they're doing gang type stuff that people can't stop. Frustration grows and grows and grows. How can you elected city officials help? Being proactive and not reactive really is needed now. I've personally seen this type of criminal behavior for over a year now. I've reported it several times. Police come. If they can't see the person, there's nothing they can do. If they don't see the act, There's nothing they can do. So then you policymakers are the only feasible, reasonable, workable solution here. Police can't sit on a location hour after hour, day after day, and try to clean up this mess. Tall lifted trucks with menacing lights and huge tires sticking out everywhere, which is illegal, by the way. Can't do that. You can't have tires sticking out 5 inches out of the fender well, but they do, especially these tall, jacked up trucks with all the lights on them. There's black ones, white ones, red ones, and they gather to party and impress the onlookers and friends. And people go where they are so they can see things happen. They leave empty glass beer bottles and cans in that lot, trash. And they use the parking lot as a toilet. How'd you like to live across the street from this? Think about it. We have observed many probable drug deals going on in this lot. My wife and I have been sitting right across the street from this lot for 3 weeks now, every night between 9 and 11. They know we're there because we're there every night. So they don't do too much that they want to have the police called. But they still rev their cars and trucks and race up and down in front of us. We're sitting on First Avenue West. They race right up beside us, past us, just in your face. How would you like to sit there and watch that happen from 25 feet away? They don't burn out in front of me, but they raise Cain and their trucks are loud and it disrupts everybody in the neighborhood. It's totally, totally unacceptable. It shows utter disregard for law and order, decency, respect for neighbors, disrespect for law enforcement, and you, the public officials that have the ability to help with this. So please, help us change something soon. The mayor and the city council members have the tools to combat this situation. Postponing action will cause ongoing, nonstop, believe me, grief to the surrounding residents. The city owns the lot. It's not a private lot. The city owns it, so they can do what they would like to there. School sports, interesting, last about 10 weeks, not the whole year, about 10 weeks, beginning the third week of August. So the lot is not needed for about 9.5 months a year. That leaves these hooligans 9.5 months, actually 12 months, but 9.5 months to go out there with virtually few other cars and do what they want to do when they want to do it. However, interestingly, there's an additional adjoining city lot right across 16th Street toward town. There are 20 parking spaces that are all lined off. It's all paved. The location alone can hold any daytime parking issues. Any daytime parking issues. There's 20. I've never seen 20 people parked in that parking lot other than the people I'm talking about. Here are some possible solutions. Number one, please change the curfew times on the signs from 11 p.m., which it is right now, to 9 p.m. High school sports rarely last later than 9 p.m. Policing will be much easier because after 9 p.m. they can be ticketed for trespassing. They're more likely to be there between 9 and 11. You can eliminate that. In fact, in talking with Susie Turner, the Public Works Director, she said, whatever you folks decide, she can get it done. There's 3 signs that need to be changed. Second proposal. And this would save taxpayers money and the city lots of time and money, including our police that could do other things well. On the southeast corner of the lot, there's an area protected by 2 posts with a chain in between them to keep traffic out. It's probably a sewage lift station, but if you go by there, you'll see exactly what that is. If each of the 2 entrances to the lot, there's one on First Avenue West, there's one on 16th Street. If each of those 2 entrances had 2 posts on each side of the entrance and a 36-foot chain that was lockable and unlockable, we wouldn't have this kind of chaos. It would allow for the easiest ingress and egress that could possibly be controlled in a short period of time for the use of any sports activities. Or you could leave it open for 2.5 months. But 9.5 months is total chaos. Neighbors would be ecstatic. Police would have less to do there, guaranteed. They'd be happier. You all wouldn't be here again and again and again. And different public officials and the police would not hear these things over and over and over again. In order to stop egregious traffic in this city-owned lot, the area residents would gratefully plead for your solutions and your help. Please, don't let us, or possibly your own family members, continue to be trampled on by this disgraceful gang-type activity. Susie Turner, Public Works Director, has said that she would do whatever it takes. If needed, I will pay for the posts and the chain. I'll pay for the materials to do that, so it can be controlled in some way or some fashion. My contact information is on the April 1st email to you folks, to the city officials. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other comment?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Close public comment. We're going to move on to the public hearing for Emmanuel Lutheran corporate bonds. Council will consider comments regarding the intent to issue conduit revenue bonds for refinancing the previously issued bonds and financing improvements to Emmanuel Living at Buffalo Hill campus. Hereby open the public hearing.
Mayor Johnson, my name is Ben Johnson. I'm with the law firm at Ballard Spahr. We are what's affectionately referred to as bond counsel. We're the finance attorneys for the city of Kalispell. I'm the one that drafted the resolution that will be considered later in the notice of public hearing. What you have before you is a hearing required by state law and federal tax law to issue tax-exempt bonds for an organization such as Emmanuel, which is a 501c3 and nonprofit organization. You had a preliminary resolution about a month ago that called for the public hearing. So this is another part of the process. I want to make something clear to the public listening. These proposed conduit revenue bonds they're referred to, or revenue bonds, are solely the obligation of Emmanuel and the other nonprofits that are pledged under their financing documents to pay the debt. The bonds are what are referred to as special limited obligations of the city of Kalispell. What that means is, and it clearly states in the financing documents, that the revenues, the taxing power of the city are not for the payment. And what that does is it allows 501c3 organizations like Emmanuel to borrow on a tax-exempt basis. They cannot borrow on a tax-exempt basis by just walking into the bank and getting the funds. It's also, because this is a large project, it allows them to tap the public municipal bond market to find investors. Here it'll be primarily mutual funds, names that you've heard before: Invesco, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price. Nuveen, places like that. We don't know who those investors are going to be yet because their investment bankers, Ziegler, haven't found the investors yet. They'll do that at a later date. But this is a necessary step in the process. It describes the project and the amount of the bonds that are issued. And like I said before, the bonds are not an obligation of the city. If there were a payment default problem, the investors look to Emmanuel to pay, and they don't look to the city to pay. There's a mortgage on the property, and other things. And Emmanuel has had tax exempt bonds issued through the city outstanding since at least the early 90s. So this is just part of the process. The other one other thing I want to mention is their question of, like I said, about if Emmanuel has a payment issue or things like that, and I talked about that. But the statute, the legal authority to issue these types of bonds is in Title 90 of the Montana Code Annotated, and when the city borrows money itself, it's under Title 7. So it's a completely different set of laws to borrow this type of money for a nonprofit. Some other examples the city's done. Years ago, the city did a loan with Western Montana Mental Health Center, which is a 501c3 that provides mental health services throughout Western Montana. There was a tax-exempt loan with First Interstate Bank buying and the city acted as conduit issuer. Glacier Apartments is another one. That's affordable housing. There's a special provision in the Internal Revenue Code and state law that allows for affordable housing with income restrictions for lower income folks to have apartments, and the city did that. The other ones you would typically see are now, like private universities do a lot of this, but you don't have a lot of private universities in Montana. You basically have Carroll and Rocky. So those are other examples. And then the hospitals are big users of this type of debt too. However, most of the hospitals in Montana use a statewide bond issuer because they have facilities located in multiple jurisdictions. That's called the Montana Facility Finance Authority. They issue a lot of the bonds. So Logan Health typically issues their bonds through Montana Facility Finance Authority. So I just wanted to give a little bit of the background. This is what I do for a living. I help the city on their borrowings, and I do a lot of this conduit work. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the council has, but wanted to get some things out in the public record.
Thank you. Any other public comment as part of the public hearing? Close the public hearing. And we're going to move on to the first action item this evening, which is Resolution 6247, the Emmanuel Lutheran Corporate Bonds. This item considers issuing conduit revenue bonds for refinancing the previously issued bonds and financing improvements to Emmanuel Living at Buffalo Hill Campus. Mr. Russell, presentation.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we previously passed the resolution of intent, which had a majority of this information within that resolution. Really, the public comment answered a lot of the questions, or a lot of the statements I was going to make related to that. That is just on behalf of, and we're not responsible party should any of the issuance become of concern. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions council may have, but we'd probably redirect them to the applicant themselves with Emmanuel Lutheran. So with that, I turn it back over to council.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Good. Just a couple questions that we'll turn over that. Who's doing the underwriting for the bonds? Mr. Johnson. And by the way, no relation between Ben and I. There's a lot of Johnsons in this country.
Yeah, Mayor Johnson. Yes, there are a lot of Johnsons, and there are a lot of Mark Johnsons and a lot of Ben Johnsons. So the Emmanuel is contracted with Ziegler and Company, who does a lot of underwriting for senior living facilities throughout the country. And they also underwrote their 2017 bonds.
Okay. And then you don't have a pool of investors yet at this point?
No, the issue is that issue is the bond issue, folks. So that we're finishing up the paperwork to go to the bond market and prepare what's called a preliminary official statement. Basically, think of it as a prospectus for a company that has a stock that has all the material information for the investors. The city does that when they go to the public bond market, which has been quite a while. So that isn't done yet, but usually that'll be prepared, and then there will be a multiple week marketing period, and then a bond purchase agreement will be signed with the terms of that. Right now, Emmanuel is working through, they got their bids in for the new apartments, the loft style apartments. Those bids came in, I believe, Jason Kronk's here, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but the CEO of Emmanuel, but I think they came in where they were anticipating them, and they're working through the details on those. And then once they have that set, they'll go to the market.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And any public comment on Resolution 6247? Seeing none, look to council for a motion. Ms. Gabriel?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would move resolution number 6247, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of taxable or tax-exempt conduit revenue bonds in the total original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $1 million, and approving the form of and authorizing the execution and delivery of certain documents relating to the revenue bonds.
That's 100.
Correct.
Oh, sorry.
If they can build
Few
this for
extras.
$1 million, I'm
100
fine.
million.
America, I'm doing a house.
Duly corrected.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Any discussion on the motion? I think the only thing I'm going to make comment on is I am in the business and my firm does underwriting, and I wanted to make sure we were not doing the underwriting because I don't want to be any kind of a conflict. Because we may be bidding, I'm going to abstain. I don't do the bidding, my firm does, but I am just going to abstain on this, but 100% support this process, so. With that, can I have a roll call vote?
Counselor Dahlman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Carlson?
Aye.
Counselor Gabriel?
100 million. Aye.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
I abstain. Okay, motion carries. Next item, Resolution 6248, Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan Adoption. This item considers adoption of the Western Montana Region Hazard Mitigation Plan previously approved by the state, FEMA, and Flathead County. Mr. Russell, presentation.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, normally I'd give the staff report, but we do have a representative from Flathead Emergency Planning here, Juanita Nelson, who has shepherded this process throughout the jurisdiction. So with her approval, I'll turn it over to her to give a little bit of a background of what we're looking at in terms of the Western Montana Region Hazard Mitigation Plan, the annex, what comes before council, and then those next steps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Juanita for that report.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman. Juanita Nelson, Office of Emergency Services Emergency Management Planner. In spring of 2022, State DES went to the counties and stated they would like to do regional hazard mitigation plans because there were multiple smaller counties that could not afford to do their plans. State DES told all jurisdictions that they would cover 100% of the cost of this plan.
Thank you.
And so, of course, Flathead County and the three respective cities decided to join the plan to save our taxpayers' money. We were told at the start of this in May of 2022 that we had hoped to have plans in front of each of the council members and the commissioners by spring of 2023. So unfortunately, we are now at 2025. It took a little bit longer than planned, just because this is the first time that they have done regional plans in Montana. Just some key dates. We kicked off May of 2022 We did data collection guides and submitted them to DES and their contractor in August and September of 2022. We completed a risk assessment virtually online with all of the counties in the Western Regional that decided to participate. Again, in September 2022, we held a workshop here in Kalispell in January of 2023 for mitigation strategy and to start planning projects to be incorporated into our hazard mitigation plan. All of our new project sheets were submitted to DES in 2023. That spring, draft plan for public comment was virtual, and that happened in October and November of '23. Preliminary state review of the Flathead County Annex was completed in August of 2024. Our base plan, which is the main component and not our actual annex, passed state review September 2024 and FEMA review November of 2024 and received FEMA pending adoption, approved pending adoption status on November 22nd of 2024. Our actual annex passed state review January 8th of this year and was submitted to FEMA the same day and passed FEMA review and received approved pending adoption status February 19th of 2025. We acknowledge, just because of the time frame with this document, that there is data in there that is not accurate. It is 3 years old. The nice thing about this plan is that it is a living document and we are required to do annual reviews of this plan. So we can update projects, identify them, update the status of different projects that have been identified in our plan. City of Columbia Falls adopted the plan on March 3rd. The City of Whitefish adopted the plan March 17th, and Flathead County adopted the plan on March 27th. So my recommendation to you is, because this is a living document and we can correct with records of change through annual reviews or workshops, to please approve the plan, and this will enable you to apply for federal mitigation grant funding as it becomes available.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I guess I appreciate hearing that there's corrections that can be made as a living document. I guess questions or maybe just comments on some of those areas that might need correcting. One is there's a reference to an area that's flooding in relation to Summit Drive, and I'm not aware of a Summit Drive. I'm aware of Summit Ridge Drive, but in relation to Meridian, I couldn't find the location on a map based on the description in the document. So might want to look on that one. That's item 140 on page 893. And then several of the tables comparing counties omitted Missoula and Gallatin counties. Was there a reason for that, or?
Correct. So Missoula and Gallatin County chose to hire their own contractor and pay for the expense.
Oh, okay.
So they opted out of participating in the regional plan.
Okay. And then there were some recommendations on page E92 for improving several road sections, and I wasn't sure. Looking at the map, we have some adjacent city property, but the other side of the road was not city. So I thought those roads were county roads. So that'd just be something to look into as well, whether or not they're actually city roads or county responsibility. And then the last question was just on implementation and follow-up. This might be for our staff. What happens after approval of this in terms of implementation and follow-up on the recommendations?
Well, it just depends on if there's a specific avenue we want to go down, want to look at. She said it opens it up for mitigation funds if they become available. As we've seen, that varies year-to-year basis, so it just kind of depends on what specific circumstances we have, what projects we have in place, so it kind of is dependent upon really honestly, the best thing is that annual review process in terms of, is there something pressing within that in terms of where it goes?
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Dowd?
So I don't believe we had a work session on this. Is that correct?
No, we did not.
Okay. This was an incredibly huge document to consume since last Thursday, and I didn't get all the way through it.
I did read, there's a portion of it that states something like, it gives FEMA and these other agencies involved the right to conduct any mitigation for public safety or something like that. It's very, very broad term. And so I guess I have a couple questions to go along with this. First off, how long do we have to participate in this? Is it like immediate? Is there a time frame?
So if you adopt it tonight, then that will enable you to, if you have a mitigation project that you want to submit a project through for BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant, which closes like the 19th, you would be able to do that because you have an approved plan in place. There are a lot of grant funds that say that you cannot even apply for a grant until you have an approved plan, an adopted approved plan. Otherwise, we can hold off. We can do, my plan is to do a work session and review late May, early June for this document, because like I said, we do know that the data is out of date. We do know there are issues with the plan. And start resolving that, add projects, clarify things as we need to. But the biggest thing is it's to enable you to be eligible to apply for federal grant funding, mitigation grant funding.
And are we currently looking at this funding for anything specific here in the city? I guess that would be a question for the city manager.
Yeah, no, we don't have any mitigation plans right now that we are looking at going after.
Are any of the wells that we're talking about eligible?
Again, you're talking about hazard mitigation. I don't know if those would fall under.
Okay, just checking. I don't feel comfortable voting in favor or against this tonight, just because I haven't been able to consume all the information. And I don't know if we approve it tonight, then we're kind of locked into the plan, correct?
It is a plan that is not scheduled to be updated and readopted until 2029. So they are 5-year plans that have to be renewed every 5 years.
Okay, and so this one won't be updated until 2029.
We will go through our annual reviews, do our record of changes, submit them to state DES, who will then submit them to the feds. So anything that we do is, like I said, is a living, breathing document. So it gets updated as we update it, and we can update it as often as we want, but we are required at minimum to do at least one annual review.
Okay, I appreciate that information. And I guess this is more of a feeling than a known fact, because I haven't been able to read the entire document, but FEMA has a pretty negative reputation right now. And, you know, before I give them carte blanche to do whatever they want, you know, in our area, I would sure like to understand exactly what we're dealing with. So my recommendation would be that we postpone this until after we have a work session to talk through it.
Juanita, if you can maybe answer the question, what happens if, say, council wants to change something and you have 3 other jurisdictions that have already adopted it?
We could do a workshop, and if they want to make modifications, we can do that.
But I mean, would it have to go back to those other 3 jurisdictions?
As long as they participated as part of the plan review and update? No. From my understanding, I don't believe that it would have to be readopted.
But what Councilman Dow is asking is to have a work session of the city council prior to adopting this as a city council. And they make a motion to change some of the components within the document that's already been adopted by 3 other jurisdictions.
That's a question that I would have to go back to my county attorney and the other 2 cities to find out if they would be, or if they would want to readopt it. Or if they were good if we had the work session and it was presented as part of a review and updated it through that means.
So should I, if nobody else has any questions, I'll make a motion.
Well, let's get to public comment. and
Okay.
Go to there first, so.
We're not in discussion yet, you're right, okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Just make sure, okay, great. Any public comment on Resolution 6248 Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan Adoption? See none? Look to council for a motion. But I'll jump, I mean, you know.
I don't feel like making a motion because I don't know if I support it yet.
Mr. Graham,
Thank you, Your Honor. I move Resolution 6248, adopting the 2024 Western Montana Region Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second.
second. Thank you, Mr. Nunnally. Discussion. Mr. Hunter?
I guess I do have one question, and perhaps this was mentioned, but do we have a timeline on adopting this, when we have to adopt it for the process?
The only restriction is that if you wanted to apply for mitigation grant funds this year, you would need to adopt it tonight.
Okay.
Tonight.
And we have no expectation at this point that we will be going for grants.
That's correct.
Okay. I guess,
I guess, you know, really kind of it boils down to, is this a Board of Adjustment Flathead County Commissioner thing that they did with the state? Well, it was already approved by the commissioners. You guys are just a rubber stamp it, don't challenge it or you get sued. So really just kind of that question.
I'll respond to Mr. Dowd's
Yeah,
comments.
I
I mean, I did look through it, the document, so I feel comfortable voting to approve it this evening. At the same time, I agree with Mr. Dowd. It is a large document. It would have been nice to have a work session on it first. So I'm also okay with going and having a work session and then voting on it. Either way, I see myself supporting it. So I don't have a lot hanging up on it. I could go either way on it.
I appreciate that, and I've consumed about 2/3 of the document briefly, you know, in a quick manner. I've only had it since last Thursday. So I would sure like to be able to know exactly what it's covering, what's, you know, what's entailed. I don't want to, you know, let the county commissioners, like, the threat of that be I do suspect that we will engage in this, but if there's anything that we want to change for Kalispell in there, I want to understand it first. So that's why I'm asking for a work session and a postponement.
We don't necessarily need to pass it to find out what's in it.
That's the worst kind of government right there. Exactly.
I preach that forever. So we have a motion and a second.
Well, I'll make an actual motion here. I move that we postpone this agenda item to a later date after we have had a chance to have a work session about it.
Second.
Motion second. Okay. Roll call vote on the postpone.
Counselor Dahlman?
No.
Counselor Fisher?
No.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
No.
Counselor Carlson?
No.
Counselor Gabriel?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
By postponed. Okay. All right, next item. Renaissance Senior Care Conditional Use Permit. This item considers approval of a request by Renaissance Senior Care for conditional use permit to expand its facility located at 645 Liberty Street. Mr. Russell, presentation.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'll turn it over to our planner, Donnie McBath, to give the staff report on this agenda item.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Donnie McBath, Planner 2. Renaissance Senior Conditional Use Permit. Some background information. Renaissance Senior Care requests a conditional use permit, a CUP, to expand its assisted living facility at 645 Liberty Street. Expansion includes converting a garage into 2 bedrooms and bathrooms. Facility currently operates under a 2003 CUP, later expanded to 13 beds. A new CUP required to increase capacity to 15 beds. Location and zoning. The address is at 645 Liberty Street here in Kalispell. The zoning is an RA1 residential apartment district. Surrounding zoning is an RA-1, city RA1, and a county R1. Surrounding land uses multifamily and single-family residential. Proposed modifications. Convert existing garage into 2 additional bedrooms and bathrooms. Expand office space within the facility. Maintain existing emergency exit. Update parking layout to provide 8 conforming spaces. Evaluation criteria. Site suitability, adequate space, no environmental constraints, appropriate design, parking, lighting, traffic circulation, remain compliant. Public services, served by the City of Kalispell Utilities and Emergency Services. Neighborhood impact, minimal changes, 24/7 operation remains unhinged. The Planning Commission's recommendation. Planning Commission recommends approval of CUP request KCU-25-01. It must comply with all applicable zoning, building, and fire safety codes, and activity must begin within 18 months of approval. Thank you, Council. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer, or a representative from Renaissance Senior Care will be able to provide clarification and address any concerns later.
Okay. Questions for staff? None? Public comment related to the conditional use permit?
Hi, I'm Adam Wright. I'm the owner of Renaissance Senior Care. We have 10 small facilities like the one here in Kalispell, all across western Montana, and we're very happy and excited to be able to, I'll bet, expand our little operation here in Kalispell, and we'd appreciate your support. But if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer any of them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? See none, look to council for a motion. I need to throw it out there with a bobber and Ms. Gabriel?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would recommend that the Kalispell City Council approve a request from Renaissance Senior Care for conditional use permit KCU-25-01, a conditional use permit to expand an existing assisted living facility subject to 6 conditions located at 645 Liberty Street, more particularly described as Lot 4 of Liberty Village, as shown on the map or plat thereof on file and of record in the office of the clerk and recorder of Flathead County, Montana.
Second.
Second, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Discussion? Mr. Hunter?
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, I'd just say, we are an aging community and we will need more and more capacity of senior living facilities in our community. So expansion of one we already have is something that's good for the community and something we need. So I'll be supporting this.
Other discussion? Have a roll call vote.
Counselor Dahlman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Carlson?
Aye.
Counselor Gabriel?
Aye.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, Timberwolf Ridge Phase 1 Final Plat. This item considers approval of the final plat and subdivision improvement agreement for Timberwolf Ridge Phase 1. Mr. Russell, presentation.
Hey, Mayor and Council, once again, I'll turn it over to Donnie McBath, Planner and Development Services, to deliver the staff report.
Good evening again. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Donnie McBath, Planner 2. Timberwolf Ridge Phase 1 Final Plat, KFP 25-01. The Inland Group has submitted a request for final plat approval for Timberwolf Ridge Phase 1. The phase contains approximately 9.0 acres, including 3 lots, a stormwater facility, public roads areas located south of Glacier High, east of Stillwater Crossing, And if council recalls, back in 2023, a PUD and a preliminary plat was issued. And so you can see right here, this is where the plat is, just south of Glacier High School. The city council approved the preliminary plat with 34 conditions on March 6, 2023, resolution number 6119. All of the conditions have been met or adequately addressed. The attached report summarizes the applicant's compliance with the conditions of approval. All infrastructure has been installed and accepted or bonded for. A subdivision improvement agreement in the amount of $792,148.13, secured by a performance bond, is included for the council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor and Council. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Questions for staff? Any public comment? Motion? Wow.
My computer's not working this evening, so I can't do any.
Mr. Hunter, you're always typically right there. Someone, let's go.
I'll go ahead.
Oh, Mr. Nunnally.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion that the city council make a motion to approve the final plat for Timber Wolf Ridge Phase 1, as well as the subdivision improvement agreement.
Second.
Motion second. Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Dahlman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Counselor Nunnally?
Aye.
Counselor Carlson?
Aye.
Counselor Gabriel?
Aye.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is Resolution 6250, Support for Transportation Alternatives Grant. This item requests, Resolution 6249, Morningstar Grant Support. This item considers approval of the city serving as host for submittal of a DNRC non-point source grant on behalf of Morningstar Community, Inc. Mr. Russell, staff presentation.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as Council has previously adopted support for grant requests from, or for the Morningstar community to connect to the city's infrastructure system. That project has continued forward, led by NeighborWorks Montana. Here's an additional grant that would go to that project. And to expand on that with the staff report, I'll turn it over to Jared Nygren, Director of Development Services.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as the manager had stated, there's been a number of grant requests for Morningstar as well as Green Acre projects. Those projects are in design, and actually the project will be going out to bid very soon. This is another grant opportunity that popped up here recently. As you can see, it's a non-point grant, which would really fall right in line with the removal of all the septic fields from the Morningstar community. Obviously, the costs associated with the project have continued to go up over the years, so this is another funding opportunity that could go over. It would have to be a pass-through grant. The city would be eligible. It would be managed by NeighborWorks Montana through a subrecipient agreement. I've got a representative from NeighborWorks online if we have any questions, but I would recommend that the council move forward with it. And once again, it'd just be an additional funding source to help get that project to the finish line, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Any public comment on Resolution 6249? Motion? Oh, wait. Online. Oh, wow.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is Danielle Maiden with NeighborWorks Montana. I meant to be there this evening in person. My family has an illness, and so I stayed home and joined you on Zoom. I just wanted to extend my gratitude for your review of this application or sponsorship of the application, and let you know that I'm here to answer any questions regarding the project or how the grant would be managed. Thank you.
Thank you. See no other public comment. council for a motion. Whoa, now it's quick. Now I got, Ms.
One's on
Carlson.
Thank
Like they were all waiting. Boom.
Found it. Thank you, Your Honor. I move resolution number 6249, a resolution authorizing the city of Kalispell to serve as host for an application to the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, DNRC, non-point source grant as requested by Neighbor Works Montana on behalf of Morningstar Community, Inc. for the purpose of building the required infrastructure to connect to the city of Kalispell sewer utility.
Second.
Second, thank you, Mr. Dowd. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Graham?
Yeah, I think it's a really good project to be a part of. In the last couple of years, it's been nice to be able to go and reclaim those septic systems that have been failing or certainly aging in that area of town. So I think anytime we can go and pull the older systems and abandon those and get onto the city system, it's a win.
Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, I'll echo those comments as well. Feel the same, and we've had this before us numerous times, and I always like to point out this is just such a great project because it's preserving affordable housing in our community, giving the folks who reside in that community the chance to own it, so it can't be sold and taken over by developers, and those folks be evicted, which has occurred over in Evergreen most recently. So it's just a great model to preserve affordable housing in our community, and I'm happy to do anything that offsets the cost for them and helps make it happen. So happy to do this.
Mr. Dowd?
Yeah, when I first got on council, I was like, who cares about septic systems or whatever? But after being here for a while, it's a big deal. It is moving the city in the correct direction. These guys are right across the street from me. I'm glad that they're annexed in now. Welcome to the city. And I'll be supporting this.
Any other discussion? Just point out, I appreciate partnering with NeighborWorks, being able to assist through this process. I think it's important to do that, and I mean, for so many reasons, but, one of the key things is eliminating septic systems, try to preserve what we have for groundwater, et cetera. I'll be voting in support of this wholeheartedly, so can I have a roll call vote?
Counselor Dahlman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Carlson?
Aye.
Counselor Gabriel?
Aye.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
Aye, motion carries. Next item is Resolution 6250, Support for Transportation Alternatives Grant. This item requests the support of a submittal of an MDT Transportation Alternatives Grant application for the southern portion of the Sunset Boulevard US 93 Shared Use Path. Mr. Russell, presentation.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we've talked about trail system going up Highway 93 for multiple years. At one point, we actually had a grant to do that. Through further investigation, it was requested that by the state that we look at other options related to this particular trail system and different options. We have since done that and came back to the same general layout that was initially before us. So we do have a proposed project that was part of our transportation plan, one of the projects that scored the highest in terms of priorities. So I do want to turn it over to Jared Nygren, who's done a lot of the work on preparing of the alternative grant and can talk a little bit more about the project specifically, why we're looking at two separate projects and how that relates to funding of it. So with that, I'm happy to turn over to Jared Nygren, our Director of Development Services.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a great program through the state of Montana. One thing I should say that was not in the memo is that the program has changed slightly in the sense that you may recall the last award was for 4 Mile Drive, which will actually be going to construction soon, I believe. Yes. Keith's shaking his head. So when we were awarded that, one thing that did change, which is something the council would be aware of, is typically the whole system is managed by the state, the design, the bidding. When we were awarded MDT, kind of the Transportation Commission made some changes, and the city actually had to take charge of the grant and administrate it through the lag process, which there is quite a bit of work that goes with that. The Public Works Department, to their credit, took that on. So in this case, if we were lucky enough to be awarded, we would be obligated to do that as well. That was not laid out in the memo. Historically, it was all done by MDT, so it's something the council would want to consider because there is quite a bit of staff time that goes into it. Likewise, like I said, the city's been awarded multiple times along different trail segments along US 93, most recently 4 Mile. In this case, it's a project, as we're all aware, we're calling it the Sunset Boulevard South. So the red section there would be the section we'd be applying for the grant, which is approximately $650,000. The entire segment of that, our estimate is 2.7 million. To do that, mainly the orange section, the reason is the retaining walls that would be required to put that in, so the cost gets really high. The maximum grant award is 1.5 million, so in order to fund that additional amount, the city would have to come up with that extra money in order to fund that. Certainly, it's something the council could do. We actually have 2 grant proposals we could put in place, but our recommendation is for the south part. The south part does at least get you past the golf course to Mission Trail, which does connect up to a trail system, I should say the sidewalk system up past Emmanuel Lutheran, which we talked about earlier. Like I said, it is a project priority within the transportation plan. Happy to answer any questions, but we would recommend approval of Resolution 6250, which would authorize staff to submit the MDT Transportation Alternative Grant Program for the south portion of the Sunset Boulevard path, which would be the red section there, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Ms. Gabriel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Nygren, did you see Mr. Landstrom's email this morning from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks?
I did.
Is there any possibility of joining with them for some grant help with that?
In the future, potentially. I will say that that program's pretty limited. I don't know if you clicked on the link, but I think the maximum grant award is 100,000, and it does require 10% match. I also don't think one of the programs would even apply to this because it's more like recreational trails that are, but one of the programs potentially could qualify. So certainly an option to look at in the future, although the funding source is pretty limited, like I said, it's $100,000 max, but provided the council moves forward with the south portion, we would potentially be able to use that as, I don't know all the details. I will say that when you start matching federal dollars with other federal dollars, it's on a US 93 system. Sometimes that's not possible. I don't know all the details about that grant program, but it's a slight possibility, but I guess, it's pretty limited funding. And if it's possible, we could look at using it as a portion of the match for that orange section in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Your Honor. Has it always been a $1.5 million cap on these?
I don't know the complete history. I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
I don't have
Yeah.
what the historical components of it.
I'll say it's relative, the entire program's about 6 million for the entire state, so that's why they're trying to limit it so they can get a lot of projects. And obviously, if this entire project were to be funded, it would be taking about half or almost half of the entire programs.
Mr. Dowd?
So this is basically funding for the red portion of the trail here only, right? And then if
Correct.
we wanted to go into the orange portion, that would be on the city. Is that what I'm hearing?
If you wanted to do the whole thing, then the city would need to obligate an additional about $1.2 million in order to do the whole thing
Okay.
At this time.
at this time.
this
If
is-
you wanted to, so the city could go forward with the application for the entire thing, but the city would have to obligate anything above 1.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah, so our recommendation is to get the southern part, to get it up to that next system where it ends, and then we'll
Yeah.
continue looking for funding for that northern part.
So the red portion gets us to sidewalks that people can use to get to the hospital, which I drive this often, and I see people in the wintertime walking on the road because the snow is all the way to the edge of the road. and it's a danger. We've been trying to do this project for years, but MDT has not allowed it. So I'm guessing with this, if we get the grant, we can actually do the project, right? We don't have to coordinate with MDT and have them do it.
It'd still be coordination with MDT.
Well, it's still coordinated, but if they fund it, they're more likely to actually do it, right?
We would anticipate that this project would be approved, correct?
Okay. I just wanted to.
Approved for the work on it. Like I say, we can't speak to their grant award, but yeah, this is, we followed MDT's guidance to go back and look at alternatives, evaluate them, bring it back, and so we're pretty comfortable where we're at now that this would be built.
That's great. I mean, this is something we've been trying to do since before I was even on council. So many years ago, we've been trying to do something here, and the public really wants it as well. On Mission Street, where it comes off of Sunset Boulevard, are there sidewalks all the way down to Sunset Boulevard? I don't recall. I don't think there is until you get up into Crestline Avenue and above there, right? Okay. I could see maybe that little red line going up that little piece of Mission Street as well, or,
Pushing it.
just because having sidewalk, that is a steep, really weird street
is.
right there.
Yeah.
And it would be great to have a sidewalk there that joined up with, the red portion here that we're gonna be doing. Anyway,
That cost wouldn't be eligible under the grant because it'd be out of the highway right away, just so you're aware.
Yes, and that's fine. That's on the city. I can handle it when it's just the city. Okay. And I think that's all my questions. Thanks.
Mr. Graham, do you have a
Yeah.
question?
When we first started this years ago, and we had, we made an approval, we approved the plan to go through and run that sidewalk all the way up, correct? Even up to Bountiful, where it's the yellow line. We didn't have that funded at that point.
Yeah, we've
though,
had,
did we?
well, we've had several projects along that 93 corridor funded through this or similar programs, taking them off in segments. And yeah, we had a project here at one time that was funded, but then at the point of design is when they
Yeah,
requested.
okay. That's what I thought.
Any other questions? Any public comment related to Resolution 6250?
Thank you, everybody. My name's Frank Holman. I've been working up at the hospital in Brennan House for the last 40 years. I retired. And I walk that trail every day, winter and summer. And the last 3 years I've been retired, so that's why those people are probably walking up the roadway, because I'm not maintaining the trail. The only thing I want to know on that, and well, there's two things, I guess. Over the winter months, who will maintain that trail? Is it going to be the state or the golf course or what? Because when the snow from the trucks, the plows come in, it's about a 4 foot. When I used to walk that trail in the wintertime, I would be above I'd walk along the fence. I'd be above the top of the fence. The barbed wire would be right about here. So somebody's got to have to maintain the trail at wintertime. I don't know. I got to think about that. But also up through, from the Orange area up to Bonneville, a lot of that, I don't know, Logan Health took care of a lot of that sidewalk. They built that, and the only thing that you might have to worry about is where, what's it called? Timber, what's it? The nursing home up there.
Buffalo Hill?
Yeah, Buffalo Hill Terrace. And I thought they were supposed to be doing something for that with the application of enlarging their assisted living there. So I don't know, maybe that's all, but I really encourage you to vote for that red spot, because that is a definite. I mean, when I used to walk there, I used to see before the schools were built over in Edgerton and stuff, kids that had to walk down to the school down here at Russell, and they had to go through that. I mean, like I said, it's a long time coming, but hopefully it will come. I encourage you. Thank you again.
Thanks, sir.
Hi, I'm Margaret Davis. I live at 164 Charlotte. Good afternoon or good evening, Mayor and councilors. Very exciting to contemplate this resolution 6250, and I encourage your support for it. I'm curious about a few things, though. Wondering why we have Logan Health in the caption for that resolution, because there's so much else up there besides Logan Health. There's Emmanuel Lutheran, there's lots of businesses, there's a lot of residences, including my own, and it just seems like it could have more of a generic geographic description instead of just Logan Health, because it also is just going to this Bountiful Drive, which on the map looks a lot more significant than it really is. I actually did a drive-by yesterday and a run-by the other day, and it essentially ends up in a parking lot. So, you know, I think a major improvement like this also puts more of an onus on more master planning for this whole area that would be helpful. And finally, I'm just calling attention to the fact that right at the bottom of the red part are 2 blocks that still wouldn't have a sidewalk along 93, and that's between Wyoming and Nevada. So if you wanted to go for gold, you could add in those 2 extra blocks. But otherwise, I repeat other comments about how necessary this is. My kid was the kid walking to Dairy Queen that probably Councilor Dowd saw. And it's just a gateway to, you know, once you get up to this area, you can get to the college safely riding your bike or running or walking. And you open up all the amenities in a more safe way, including healthcare, businesses. And I just appreciate that this has come this far. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? So none. Look to council for a motion. Mr. Nunnally.
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion that we approve Resolution 6250, an application by the City of Kalispell to the Montana Department of Transportation for a grant to fund the southern portion of a shared use path connection on the east side of Sunset Boulevard, US 93, connecting downtown Kalispell and Logan Health.
Second.
And many others.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Discussion. Mr. Nunnally.
I'm happy to make this motion because I worked with Frank for maybe not all those years, but I also watched him. Well, that's true. But besides Frank that walked that was my great-grandmother, Amy Hempfer. And she would walk from the south end of Willow Glen all the way up to the hospital to volunteer almost every single day. And she did that till she was in her 80s and couldn't walk that anymore. So I'm glad to support this.
Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I do have one question that came up after the public comment for staff. In terms of removing snow, I know the adjoining property owner is responsible for that. In this case, the golf course is city property, so would the city be maintaining the sidewalk?
Well, it wouldn't be by ordinance, but I mean, that's the question. That's a great question as we're coming into budget season. You know, we have lots of similar situations throughout town where it's kind of quasi runs into that issue. This be no different, be the same challenge.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Dowd and others have spoken about the the desire by this council and also just what we've heard from the public about the great need for this. And it is, I think, our top priority in terms of sidewalk in our community. So definitely the need is there. And I do appreciate staff with breaking this up to make it more financially doable. I like the plan for that and the fact that it reaches Mission. I do see a lot of folks, cutting off and going up Mission to get off the highway when they're walking. It would be nice to have a sidewalk that goes up Mission to connect there with those others. And so that's kind of a future item. And then also, as pointed out in public comment, the south, the missing 2 blocks there to the south will be good to make sure we keep that on our radar for future projects as well. So I'm glad to finally be getting this, hopefully, if awarded, getting this on the ground and make some progress on this. It's been on our agenda for a long time. And then hopefully we can turn our attention to that north side too, get that done too. So very supportive of this.
Other discussion? Have a roll call vote.
Counselor Dahlman?
Resounding aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Sorry. Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Carlson?
Aye.
Counselor Gabriel?
Aye.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
Aye, motion carries. City manager report, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just a few items. First off, in respect to the hazard mitigation plan, I'll connect with the Office of Emergency Services to find a time that fits scheduling for a work session related to that document. We are moving into, we've had a couple already on budget-related matters. Those will continue. Want to remind everyone that we'll have our budget workshops on May 6th and 7th. Prior to there, we'll still hit some of those items in our work sessions, including next week. We'll have a work session on shop complex. It's one that we initially, it's in the budget right now. It probably will not be in the budget when it gets to you because of the financial impact that it has through the central garage and how that's distributed across. It's an internal service fund, but it's a large dollar amount. So it probably will not be in the preliminary budget by the time it, say, reaches your desk. But still want to have that work session on it so you know what the needs are. I think it's been maybe like 25, 30 years since we've added like an automotive tech. But yeah, we've had such significant growth in our services that it's becoming a bind in there and a bind for space for those services. So I'll probably touch on that a little bit more as well with solid waste building, which actually was included in our rate adjustment. So we'll have funding for that. But I think it is important to understand what is ahead of us and what is being taken out, more than likely, of the preliminary budget when it reaches you. Last thing, in 2 weeks, on the consent agenda, as you're well aware, we have an agreement with the Airport Users Association. They manage and are responsible for all maintenance of the airport. They've previously received a grant for improved lighting. That project has been underway and will start in construction this year. They've recently been awarded grants for the rehabilitation of the taxiway and replacement of the beacon. That will be on the consent agenda in 2 weeks from now, but wanted to bring it up in case anyone had a question between now and then they wanted to ask. And with that, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Anything from council? Mr. Dowd?
Thank you. Just a couple things. Just another reminder for the public that when you come up and give public comment, we don't respond. We take your public comment in, we get a chance to think about it, and then we can respond after some thought. And just another reminder, unlike U.S. Congress and the Montana State Legislature, this council likes to understand what it is voting on.
Thank you, Mr. Dowd. Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on that public comment about the parking lot at Airport Road. I thought those suggestions sounded good, but I'd be interested in having a work session to just explore what we might be able to do to address the issues there.
I would concur.
Yep.
Okay.
Basically, what we'll look for, in municipal code, it's basically written under the authority of the police department for the hours. This would be a whole new program, so we'd want council discussion related to doing anything related to it. But at that work session, we can get, call volumes that we've received over the years. I know this isn't the first time we've heard it. But we'll also explain, it's not just that fall season, there's also spring season and potential baseball impacts from Lakers Field as they're looking at available space and parking concerns that we're trying to say, hey, there's also this lot down here. So we can bring all that and wrap it up for a larger discussion on all the matters related to it. Ultimately, what we'd be looking for is direction from the council, because it is written into code where that does fall under the police department for authority to sign. But again, that would be something completely different that we haven't done before. We definitely want to have council input and discussion related to that matter.
Stallman.
Please do not put bear spray in garbage cans
Or your luggage.
or your luggage. That's it.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
Mr. Graham? It's
Oh, it was about the parking lot.
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to say two quick things. Thank you to officers here tonight. Some of you saw I had to get up. I found out that my neighbor was trying to call me vehemently because she had fallen and couldn't get up on her stairs. Went and talked with Officer Fetfight. He got fired and medical there right away. I had a text from another neighbor that said, "What's going on over at her house?" So thank you very much. So the only other thing that I have is I'm not telling you to vote for the school levy or not to vote for it, but think about what impact we have on those students in our community that do attend the Egg Center, the shop, the wood shop, the mechanic area. Ag means a lot. If we don't know where our food comes from as a society, we will not live long. And the Egg Center does a wonderful job of teaching that to the kids. So I would just ask to consider either way on your vote.
I think, wasn't fine arts involved as well?
I think fine arts was too.
So it's quite a bit.
Mr. Knight, just to clarify, it's AG, Egg Center.
Egg Center.
Not
Yes, not Egg Center.
Got it,
Egg
okay. Just
Center.
wanted to clarify.
If they sold eggs, they'd
You know,
fund themselves.
anything else? Ms. Gabriel?
I just want to thank council for supporting the sidewalk project. It brings back a lot of fond memories for me of meetings, listening to Mr. Hafferman and Mr. Larson and Mr. Sidewalk Savarud and Mr. Kenyon and Mr. Atkinson, always trying to come up with ways to make more connectivity. And that particular route was one that we tried for years to come up with a solution for. So thanks for supporting that. I'll be glad to see that kind of come to fruition. Thank you.
A couple of things. One, I appreciate the public comment we've been getting. A lot of very articulate, well thought out. I mean, I really appreciate this because it does bring to light things that we need to understand, things that we may not see as a council member or as a mayor. So I appreciate that and I encourage all public comment. Emails are received, they are read. Don't necessarily reply to all, but we get those emails, we read them, we do take them to heart. Next thing I want to touch on, and this is, we look back in life, we always look back and go, wow, missed opportunities. And I think back to some times in the past when we had that fifth Monday meeting, where we would talk about something that was impacting the whole area, the county. And I think we missed an opportunity because March 31st would have been a fifth Monday. And I got to admit, I get a document to read, to vote on, to approve that two other municipalities have already seen, discussed, and voted on, and the commissioners have already seen, discussed, and voted on. This was a missed opportunity because I believe the commissioners should have said, we have an item that's for the region. We should have a fifth Monday meeting when we can all look at this together and make decisions and make comments on a plan. And I know we were kind of behind the gun time-wise. But understand that this is one of those key documents where we really should have had a fifth Monday meeting. And Juanita, I don't lay that at your feet.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, you can blame me. That's scheduling. When we adopted a hazard plan 5 or 6 years ago, and there was none of this discussion. So, I mean, these are, as Juanita identified, there were stakeholders from the city that participated in the development of this plan. I did not anticipate that the council would have these discussions, so it's not Juanita's fault. I'd say it's not the county commissioner's fault.
Okay,
You
well,
can question me on that, that's fine.
This is one of those things where it is a regional, where we could have won because it does help to bring the jurisdictions together. So this is, I look back and this is a missed opportunity that we as a city could have looked at and maybe pushed. But I do appreciate the fact that it is a large document. We do want to understand what we passed. And we're not in that position where we're looking at this for funding. We don't have anything hinged on this. But I think it's important that we step back and look at some of these things and go, where could we meet and see and address some of these issues that might bring about other discussions. So I just want, as we look back, I just want to, this is one of those key things that I think we should look at and push for. So I do appreciate looking for the work session on this to understand a little bit more about it and understand. And with that, we now move forward. So moving forward, I just want to get home, look to see who won the game, because all I know is Gonzaga wasn't playing. Because if Gonzaga was playing, I wouldn't be here. Mr. Graham would be running the meeting, because I swore I would never miss another championship game. But guess what? I don't think I'll ever miss another championship game for Gonzaga.